I froze. I swear my blood stopped moving inside me. Standing there in our kitchen, the same place where we once laughed over burnt pancakes and cheap wine, my wife looked me dead in the eye and said, "You deserve the truth. Ryan gave me a child, and he's planning to marry me. We've been more than just friends for almost 4 years. Even your own family prefers him over you. Don't bother calling them. They're helping us plan the celebration next weekend." For a moment, the only sound in the room was the buzzing of the old fridge behind me. Her words hung there like a bad smell, choking out the air. She stood there, Jessica, wearing my college sweatshirt like some kind of sick joke, her arms crossed, a smirk crawling across her lips like she was proud of every knife she just shoved in my back. And here's the kicker. What Jessica didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I had already spent the last 3 weeks preparing for this. Quietly, carefully. I had folders of documents stacked in the back seat of my pickup truck. Deeds, loans, little legal grenades. Every single one of them aimed at their precious little futures. When Ryan and Jessica would stand there, fake smiling for the cameras, I'd be the ghost crashing through the doors. Their celebration? I was about to turn it into a funeral. But first, I needed to survive this moment. I needed to survive her. Jessica leaned against the counter like she was relaxing after a jog, casually sipping from a coffee mug that said #1 wife. A Christmas gift from me, no less. The audacity. "You're quiet, Tom," she said, tilting her head mockingly. "What? You didn't notice? I mean, you didn't even realize when I started staying out late. Or when I stopped giving you attention. You've been pathetic for a while now." Every word hit like a hammer. Every smirk, every roll of her eyes, scraped away whatever pieces of love still clung to my chest. I could smell Ryan's cologne on her. That cheap, aggressive, musky garbage he wore, thinking it made him irresistible. It clung to her like a badge. I wanted to scream. I wanted to punch holes in the walls, tear this goddamn house down brick by brick. But I didn't move. I didn't say a word. I just stood there, like a man already halfway to hell. "You're wondering how you missed it," Jessica continued, grinning like a devil in yoga pants. "It's because you were too busy playing house. Too busy pretending like our life was good enough." She walked past me, brushing my shoulder like I was an annoying stranger she had to squeeze past at the grocery store. She smelled like expensive perfume and betrayal. "You know," she said, pausing at the doorway, "Ryan listens. He makes me feel alive. He doesn't come home tired, smelling like grease and sweat." I clenched my fists so hard my knuckles cracked. Jessica turned, flipping her hair over her shoulder like some bad movie villain. "Don't worry," she said sweetly. "You can keep the dog." And with that, she was gone. Out the door. Into Ryan's black Mustang, parked proudly on our driveway like a slap across the face. I stood there, surrounded by the ruins of my life. The framed wedding photo on the wall, a lie. The magnets on the fridge, a lie. The anniversary card still sitting unopened on the counter, a lie. Everything. My whole world had become a minefield, and every memory was a bomb going off under my feet. But underneath all the pain, all the rage, something else was blooming inside me. Something cold. Something calculating. They thought they could just erase me. Replace me. They had no idea who they were messing with. I walked out to the garage, opened the door of my pickup, and looked at the fat folders sitting on the passenger seat. Every paper, every signature, proof of every financial string I still controlled. The house Ryan thought he'd move into, mine. The car Jessica thought she'd drive off in, mine. The cabin where they were planning their honeymoon, guess what? Also mine. I smiled for the first time in what felt like years. It wasn't a happy smile. It was the kind of smile a wolf makes when it smells blood. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. I guess looking back, I should have seen it coming. The signs were there, burning like neon warnings, but I ignored them like a fool. Jessica started staying late at work. Deadlines, she said. Then came the gym membership. "I just want to feel better about myself," she claimed, flashing that plastic smile she used whenever she lied. New clothes, high heels I hadn't seen before, perfume that cost more than my week's paycheck. I asked once if she was seeing someone. She laughed in my face. Laughed. "Tom," she said, patting my chest like I was some lost puppy, "you're being insecure. It's gross." And like an idiot, I apologized. I apologized for noticing the lipstick stains that weren't mine, the cold kisses, the way she flinched when I touched her. But the real gut punch came 2 weeks ago. It was a Wednesday night. She said she was working late again. I was half watching some boring game show when I got up to grab a beer from the fridge. And there it was, her iPad buzzing like crazy on the counter. Normally, I never touched her stuff. But something that night, something snapped. I grabbed it, entered the passcode she stupidly never changed. And what I found nearly brought me to my knees. Messages. Hundreds of them. Pictures. Voice notes where she called Ryan baby and love and talked about their wild nights. One picture of her sitting half naked in the very bed we once shared, flipping the camera off with her tongue out. And then, the final nail, a video she sent him from the cabin my grandfather left me. The cabin where she once said she wanted to raise our kids. In the video, she was laughing, wearing nothing but one of Ryan's flannel shirts, bragging about breaking in every room. I don't know how long I stood there, scrolling, watching my whole life turn to ash. The beer slipped from my hand, bottle shattering across the floor. Didn't even flinch. I just stood there in the glass, barefoot, bleeding, scrolling through the wreckage. She came home an hour later, all bubbly and fake tired. I didn't say a word. Not yet. I needed time. I needed a plan. Because blowing up in that moment, that's what she would expect. That's what Ryan would expect. And I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction. I spent the next few nights gathering everything I could. Bank accounts. Property deeds. I dug into Ryan's background, found out he was in debt up to his eyeballs. Perfect. Because once I pulled the trigger, he wouldn't be marrying Jessica. He'd be trying to bail her out of a mess so big, they'd both drown. Funny, right? The two of them plotting a shiny new life together, while I tightened the noose without them even noticing. The night before she finally confessed, the night before the scene in the kitchen, I sat in the garage, staring at the pickup, at the folder, at everything that was about to happen. And I smiled. Not because I wasn't hurting. God, no. Every breath felt like swallowing glass. Every memory we ever made together replayed in my mind like a horror movie. But I smiled because for the first time in years, I wasn't begging for her love. I wasn't clinging to a fantasy. I was awake. And soon, they were going to be wide awake too. The next evening, I waited. Jessica walked through the front door like nothing was wrong, tossing her purse onto the chair, kicking off her heels. Ryan must have dropped her off a few blocks away. Smart little rats trying to hide the crumbs. I sat at the dining table, lights dim, documents spread out neatly in front of me like a judge preparing for sentencing. She didn't even notice at first. Too busy texting, laughing at her phone. Jessica, I said calmly. She flinched, like she forgot I even existed. What? She snapped, rolling her eyes. I nodded toward the papers. Sit. She hesitated, sensing something. That gut feeling she usually ignored. Still, she sauntered over, plopping into the chair across from me, arms crossed, attitude thick enough to choke on. What's this supposed to be? Your sad little breakup speech? She said, smirking. God, if only you could bottle that arrogance and sell it. I slid her iPad across the table. The messages were open. The pictures. The videos. The filth she thought I'd never see. Jessica's face paled for half a second before the mask slammed back into place. You went through my stuff? She barked. Wow, you're pathetic. Not an apology. Not even a fake excuse. Just pure, raw, undiluted scorn. You lied to me for 4 years, I said, voice low, shaking with controlled rage. You let me plan anniversaries, talk about starting a family, build a life, all while you were fooling around with Ryan behind my back. Jessica leaned back, arms behind her head like she was bored. Yeah? And what were you going to do, Tom? Keep pretending everything was fine? Keep working your dead-end job while I withered away here? Each word was like gasoline on a fire. You deserve to be replaced, she sneered. You deserved it a long time ago. I slammed my fist on the table, rattling the glasses. She didn't even flinch. You're not even sorry, I whispered. Sorry. Jessica laughed, a cold, humorless sound. For what? For finding someone better? For finally living instead of rotting away with you. She stood up, towering over me like she was delivering the final blow. I'm marrying Ryan, she said with a poisonous smile. And there's nothing you can do to stop it. Your family loves him. They're helping us plan it. You're a joke to them. She spat the words like venom. I rose from my chair, towering over her now. Slow, calm, deadly. You really think it's going to be that easy? Jessica smirked, reaching for her phone. I don't think I know. And that's when I leaned close enough for her to smell the fury rolling off me. You might want to hold off on sending out those invitations, I said softly. Because by the time your little wedding day comes, you'll both be homeless. For the first time, Jessica's smirk faltered. A crack in the armor. Good. I wanted her to feel it. That icy spike of dread I'd been living with for weeks. I turned, grabbed the folder, and walked toward the door. You wanted freedom, I said over my shoulder. Congratulations. You just lost everything. Jessica called after me. Something desperate, something furious, but I didn't hear a word. The blood in my ears roared too loud. I climbed into the pickup, slammed the door, and stared at my reflection in the rearview mirror. I didn't recognize the man staring back, but I liked him. I put the truck in gear, and without looking back, drove into the night. Tomorrow would be the beginning of the end, and I was going to enjoy every second of it. That I didn't sleep that night. Didn't even try. I just drove, past the old gas stations where Jessica and I used to stop for late-night snacks, past the lakeside where we promised each other forever, past every memory that now felt like a trap, like a place where some stupid version of me still believed in her lies. The folder sat on the passenger seat, practically glowing under the streetlights, heavy with the weight of everything I was about to destroy. It should have made me feel powerful. It should have been enough. But there, in the dark, with nothing but the hum of the tires on the asphalt for company, the truth hit harder than anything Jessica had said. I still loved her. God help me. After everything, some stupid part of me still ached for her. For the girl she used to be. For the life I thought we were building. The betrayal wasn't just knives in my back. It was a hollowing out. A cold, clawing emptiness tearing through my chest. I pulled over at some abandoned diner, sat in the lot with the engine running, and just broke. Not loud. Not messy. Just sat there, fists clenched on the steering wheel, jaw locked so tight it hurt, while silent tears ran down my face. Jessica hadn't just cheated. She hadn't just lied. She had taken my heart, my pride, my faith in people, ground them up, spat on them, and laughed while doing it. And Ryan wasn't just the other man. He was the symbol of everything I wasn't, everything she threw me away for, a shiny toy, a bad boy with a big mouth and no real future. They deserved each other. And still, the memories wouldn't leave me alone. Jessica slipping her hand into mine at the movies. Jessica crying when I proposed, swearing she had never loved anyone more. Jessica whispering promises into my ear at night, promises that now sounded like cruel jokes. I thought about the night we got the dog, Max, our big clumsy golden retriever who still waited by the door for her every night, tail wagging. What the hell was I supposed to tell him? That his mom decided she needed a man who could flash cash and lift weights, but couldn't spell loyalty? The sky started to turn gray, the first hints of morning bleeding into the horizon, and with it came a different kind of clarity. The pain didn't disappear. Hell no. It sat there like a boulder in my chest. But underneath it, something harder started to form. Something sharper. This wasn't just about heartbreak anymore. This was about survival. About reclaiming what was mine. About refusing to be the guy everyone forgot the moment Jessica upgraded to a shinier model. They thought I was broken. That I'd roll over and die quietly while they danced on my grave. They had no idea. I wiped my face on my sleeve, shoved the truck into drive, and peeled out of that parking lot like the devil himself was chasing me. Tomorrow was the wedding rehearsal. Their big moment. And I'd be there, all right. Front row. Not to cry. Not to beg. But to bring down the whole rotten house they built out of lies. Jessica wanted a new beginning. She was about to get one. One she'd spend the rest of her miserable life regretting. The morning of the rehearsal, I woke up with a clarity I hadn't felt in weeks. The rage was still there, buzzing just beneath my skin like electricity, but it wasn't the kind of rage that made you act stupid. It was cold now. Focused. I wasn't just going to crash their little fairy tale. I was going to burn it to the damn ground and leave them standing in the ashes, wondering how it all went so wrong. The first step was simple. I pulled into the bank just after it opened, documents in hand. The woman behind the counter, Linda, I think her name was, gave me a polite, sleepy smile. She had no idea she was about to help detonate my marriage. Within 20 minutes, I'd frozen every joint account Jessica and I shared. The house, the cabin, even her precious little savings for her future. Gone. Sealed tighter than a coffin. Next, the lawyer. Good old Mr. Benson, the man who helped me close on the house years ago, now smiling warmly as he notarized the ownership transfers. I told him there was a change in plans. He didn't ask questions. By noon, everything that Jessica and Ryan thought they were inheriting was legally mine. And by the time they figured it out, it would be way too late to fix. I made one last stop before heading to the venue, Ryan's ex-girlfriend's apartment. Yeah, turns out good old Ryan had a history of bouncing from girl to girl and trashing them on the way out. His ex, Amber, was only too happy to hand over the dirt she had. Pictures, messages, proof he was still hitting her up for late-night fun, even while proposing to Jessica. I left her with a simple promise. Come to the rehearsal. You'll want front row seats. She laughed, handed me a flash drive full of their dirty little secrets, and wished me luck. By the time I pulled up to the rehearsal dinner, that fancy Italian place Jessica always dreamed of hosting our anniversaries in, I wasn't nervous. I wasn't scared. I was alive. The parking lot was full. Ryan's Mustang sat there, all shiny and smug under the sunlight, like a big middle finger aimed at me. I grabbed the folder and the flash drive, adjusted my jacket, and walked toward the entrance. Inside, the place was dripping with fake laughter. Jessica's family, Ryan's friends, my own goddamn parents, all laughing, drinking, clinking glasses like I had never existed. I spotted Jessica immediately. She was wearing a tight red dress, the same one I bought her for our 3rd anniversary, leaning against Ryan like she was some prize he won at a fair. And when she saw me, she smiled, mocking, condescending, as if she knew I was nothing more than a footnote now. Ryan slung an arm around her, whispering something into her ear that made her laugh, loud and cruel. My fists clenched so hard I thought my bones might snap. I walked straight toward them, ignoring the gasps, the awkward coughs, the sudden drop in conversation. Jessica raised an eyebrow, cocking her head like she was watching a bug crawl across her perfect tablecloth. "Did you get lost, Tommy boy?" Ryan said, grinning like a jackass. Jessica just smiled wider, her teeth flashing. "Maybe he came to beg," she said sweetly. I laid the folder down on the table between them. "Calm. Controlled. Open it," I said quietly. Ryan snorted, flipping it open, and within seconds, the color drained from his face. Jessica leaned over to look, and her smirk shattered like glass hitting concrete. Deeds. Frozen accounts. A cancellation notice for their dream honeymoon cabin. And, tucked neatly on top, a printed summary of Ryan's dirty little side affairs, courtesy of Amber. Jessica's hands shook as she flipped through the pages, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. Ryan just sat there, staring, the blood draining from his smug face. I leaned in, voice low enough for only them to hear. "Congratulations," I whispered. "You just lost everything." For a few seconds, the entire restaurant seemed to freeze. You could hear a pin drop. Hell, you could hear a heartbeat across the room. Jessica's eyes darted from the papers to Ryan, then back to me. Her perfect little world, the one she built on betrayal and lies, was crumbling faster than she could think. Ryan shoved the folder away like it was on fire, standing up so fast he knocked over a glass of champagne. The liquid spread across the table, soaking Jessica's red dress, making it cling even tighter to her like some kind of scarlet letter. "What the hell is this?" Ryan barked, voice cracking. "You're bluffing." I smiled. A slow, savage smile. "You should have read the fine print, buddy," I said. "Turns out, cheating with a married woman while planning a wedding with her doesn't look so good when every asset you were banking on is frozen." Jessica shot up from her seat too, face red, eyes wild. "You can't do this," she hissed, her voice sharp enough to slice the air. "You can't take everything away from me." "Oh, but I already did," I said calmly, picking up the flash drive and holding it between 2 fingers. "And in about 2 minutes, so will everyone else." Before she could lunge at me, I turned toward the projector set up at the end of the room, the one Jessica and Ryan had prepared for their love story video. How poetic. I plugged in the drive, hit play, and stepped back. At first, the screen showed a few cutesy pictures, Jessica and Ryan posing, kissing, laughing. The room gave a few nervous chuckles, unsure where this was going. Then Amber's screenshots started flashing one by one. Ryan's desperate late-night texts, pictures of him shirtless in her apartment, messages saying, "Jessica doesn't need to know. You're way more fun anyway." And then, the final blow, a short video of Ryan, drunk and shirtless, slurring into the camera about how he was only marrying Jessica Because she's got money and no brains. The gasp that ripped through the room was deafening. Jessica's mother dropped her wine glass. Ryan's father turned beet red and stormed out. My parents just sat there, mouths open, stunned. Jessica spun around, fury in her eyes, and slapped Ryan so hard the entire room winced. "You bastard," she screamed. Ryan, too dumb or too arrogant to realize he was beaten, grabbed her wrist. "You knew what this was," he yelled back. "You're not some innocent victim. You begged for it, Jess." The room exploded into chaos. Family members shouting, friends grabbing their coats and fleeing, waiters hovering awkwardly, unsure whether to intervene or run. I stood there in the middle of it all, perfectly still, watching everything collapse. Like a man watching a building he hated finally burn to the ground. Jessica turned to me, trembling with rage. "You did this," she spat. "No," I said, voice steady. "You did." Her eyes flickered, and for the first time, I saw it. Real fear. Real understanding that there was no coming back from this. "You think you've won?" she sneered, desperate. "You think this makes you better than me?" I leaned in, my voice low and brutal. "No, Jessica," I said. "It just makes me free." And with that, I turned and walked out. Didn't look back. Didn't listen to her screams. Didn't care about the shattered pieces she was trying to scrape together. The sun was setting as I stepped outside, warm and gold against the chaos inside. For the first time in years, I felt weightless. Broken, yes, but also free. Like a man stepping out of a prison he didn't even know he was locked inside. Jessica wanted a new life. She got one, just not the one she pictured. And me? I was just getting started. The days that followed were a strange kind of quiet. Like the world had pressed pause after the explosion. I moved out of the house the next morning. Left Jessica there, surrounded by the ruins she built with her own hands. Didn't even bother to leave a note. She tried to call. At first, it was the usual rage, screaming voicemails about how I ruined her life and how she would make me pay. I deleted them without listening past the first few seconds. Then came the softer ones. The fake apologies. The crying. "Tom, please, just talk to me. We can fix this. I made a mistake." Hearing her voice made my skin crawl. How many times had I heard that same tone when she was lying to me, cheating, smiling in my face while stabbing me in the back? I blocked her number. Changed mine 2 days later. Friends picked sides fast. Some reached out to tell me they were sorry and never liked Ryan anyway. Others, mostly her family, some of mine, didn't even bother pretending. To them, I was the villain now. The one who couldn't move on, who took things too far. Good. Let them talk. I wasn't living for their approval anymore. I rented a small place across town. Cheap, ugly, but mine. No memories in the walls. No ghost of Jessica lingering in the kitchen or the bedroom. Just me, Max, and the steady, painful process of putting my life back together. Max adjusted faster than I did. He didn't care where we lived, as long as he had food and a place to nap. Watching him, his simple joy at the smallest things, reminded me that healing didn't have to be some big, dramatic process. It could be slow, ugly, messy, but it was still healing. I started hitting the gym again. Not because I wanted revenge, not because I needed to win some breakup contest, but because every time I felt the burn in my muscles, the ache in my lungs, it reminded me I was still alive. Still moving forward, one brutal inch at a time. At night, the dreams came. Jessica's face, twisted and cruel. Ryan laughing. Me, frozen, helpless. But every morning, the memories faded a little more. I knew she was struggling. Word got around fast in a town like ours. After the rehearsal disaster, the wedding was called off. Ryan bailed 2 days later, packed up his Mustang and disappeared to another state. Left Jessica to deal with the wreckage on her own. The money she thought she'd have? Gone. The family support she relied on? Shattered. She even tried to file claims against the property, desperate, grasping at anything she could. But the court sided with me. Every time, one by one, the walls closed in around her. Poetic justice. But here's the funny part. Seeing her suffer didn't make me feel better. Not really. It didn't fill the hollow space she carved out in me. Didn't erase the nights I woke up sweating, heart pounding, reaching for someone who wasn't there, and realizing, with fresh agony, that she never really was. Revenge was satisfying. For a moment. But healing? Healing was slower, more painful, and infinitely more worth it. Jessica became a cautionary tale around town. The girl who had it all and burned it to the ground for a few cheap thrills. The whispers followed her everywhere. Me? I stayed silent. Didn't engage. Didn't gloat. I was too busy building a new life. Brick by painful brick. Jessica had destroyed the man she married. But she had also unknowingly built the man who would survive her. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I started to believe that maybe, just maybe, that was a gift. A brutal, bloody gift. But a gift nonetheless that it took months before the anger stopped feeling like a second skin. There were days I wanted to drive by the old house just to see if Jessica was still there, clinging to the scraps of her fantasy. Days I wanted to call and ask why. Why wasn't I enough? Why did she turn me into an afterthought? But I didn't. Because deep down, I already knew the answer. Jessica didn't cheat because she found someone better. She cheated because she thought she could. Because she thought I was too weak, too stupid, too loyal to ever leave. And maybe for a while, I was. I gave her the best parts of me, my time, my trust, my dreams, and she used them like disposable napkins. But here's the thing no one tells you when your life burns down. You get to build it back up. Stronger, smarter, meaner, if you have to be. And you don't owe anyone an apology for surviving. One night, about 6 months after it all collapsed, I sat outside my new place. Max at my feet, a cold beer in my hand, the stars stretched wide above me. And I realized I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't bitter. I wasn't waiting for some cosmic justice to strike Jessica down. I just didn't care. She was a story I used to tell myself. A bad habit I had finally broken. Somewhere across town. Maybe she was still pretending she was the victim. Maybe she was still blaming me, blaming Ryan, blaming anyone but herself. It didn't matter. Because I was free. I think about that night in the kitchen sometimes. The night she looked me in the eye and told me that Ryan gave her a child, that even my own family preferred him. I think about the way she smiled when she said it, like she wanted to see me shatter. And I smile now, because the man standing here today isn't the one she tried to break. He's better, stronger, harder to fool, harder to destroy. If I could go back and talk to that broken version of myself, the man bleeding on the kitchen floor, betrayed and hollowed out, I'd tell him this. You're going to lose her. And that's the best thing that will ever happen to you. She's not your home. She's not your future. She's a test, a brutal one. But when you pass it, you'll realize you never needed her at all. And to anyone out there reading this, stuck in that same hell, wondering if they'll ever breathe again, you will. You'll hurt. You'll rage. You'll cry in the shower until you can't stand. And then one day, without even realizing it, you'll wake up, stretch your arms, and realize the worst thing that ever happened to you became the best thing that ever happened for you. You'll see their betrayal not as the end, but as your beginning. Jessica gave me a gift she never intended. Freedom. Freedom to rebuild. Freedom to choose better. Freedom to finally put myself first. I don't wish her well. I don't wish her misery either. I simply wish her nothing. Because that's all she deserves from me now. Nothing. And for the first time in a long, long time, that feels like everything.